What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Start With Today podcast. My name is Jeff Schaefer, and I'm so excited that you decided to tune in today. For those of you who don't know, Start With Today was founded upon the idea that we can't go back and change our past. We can't look forward into the future and predict exactly what's to come and know every single step that we'll face along the way. But what we can do is take each day as a gift, enjoy the people God's placed in our lives, enjoy every moment, and most of all, take advantage of every opportunity He gives us. I can't wait to dive into today's episode. I hope it speaks to you, I hope it encourages you, and I hope you'll join us next week. So with that being said, let's jump in and let's start with today. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Start With Today podcast. So excited you joined me today for episode 7. I'm excited, man, mostly just because, first of all, we're nearing 10 episodes, which is pretty cool, but also just in general, life is good. Quarantine looks like it's coming to an end. Praise God, and stuff's starting to reopen, and it's a good feeling to know that, slowly but surely stuff's going to be going back to normal. And that's the focus of today's episode. I'm actually going to title this episode Reopening. And, we've talked about throughout this entire podcast so far, I've at least mentioned quarantine once. In the very first episode, I talked about, what we could do to make the most of it. And now that it's coming to an end, I want to touch on, what we can do after. What's it going to look like now that quarantine's over? How can we use what we've been through, what we've learned in this entire weird experience to get the most and make the most out of the life that God's given us? And so as quarantine comes to a close, and I don't want to say COVID-19 is coming to a close because honestly, who knows? But as what it looks like now, quarantine's coming to an end. And I think it's equally important to reflect on what's happened, what we've learned, how we've grown, as it is to look forward and kind of, get excited about what's to come and how we're all going to be able to be together again and do the things that we love to do. And, I think the season's brought its own unique challenges to each of us. I don't think anybody's experience has been exactly the same. Yes, it's been similar in the sense that, we've been told to stay in the house and we can't go here. But I'm saying individually, the things we've learned, the things that God's spoken to us, and the way we've grown and matured through this season is going to look a little bit different for everybody. And I think that's super cool. And I think that has a lot to do with just how God is such an individualistic God. And it's, our relationship with Him isn't going to be the same as anybody else's. And so as we think about these challenges, I also think there's a lot of positives that we can pull out of this season. And so as I was preparing for this episode and kind of just reflecting on my own, there were 3 questions that I really thought of and kind of explored myself. And this episode's kind of my thought process through that. So the questions were as follows. First, what have we learned throughout quarantine? What are maybe some new things that we've learned, whether, mentally or spiritually, or maybe something new you picked up as a hobby, or something new that you experienced, something new that you gained interest in. The second question was, what did we grow in? Or in other words, how did we grow? What are some areas in your life that maybe weren't so strong coming into quarantine, and now you're like, wow, I think I've really gotten a grasp on this. I think I've gotten better. I think I realized that I needed to make a change. And personally for me, that's something that I've realized that I was falling short in a lot of areas of my life. And so throughout this season and moving forward, it's stuff I want to continue to grow in and to get better at. And I'll get into that in a few minutes. And the last question, and this is something that I think is on everybody's mind, is what do we do now? And that's a question that, obviously everybody's like, well, we're going to go back to normal. And as great as that sounds, I don't think things are going to be back to normal for a while. And I also think, though, that this whole thing has not been near as bad as everybody thought it was going to be, or as we were told it's going to be. And that's my opinion. That's not to say that, it's terrible that a lot of people suffered. People lost their loved ones. That's awful. But thankfully, it didn't get much worse. It didn't get to the point where we couldn't leave our house, period. And very grateful to God for just kind of helping keep everything under control. This isn't a situation that surprised God. And I think that's why, even though there's been negatives, there's been a lot of positives in this season as well. And so I'm excited to kind of pick that apart. So the first question that I asked, again, was what have we learned throughout quarantine? And personally for me, I really learned the importance of family and friends. Like I touched on in the first episode, I think I was not being so present with family or the people that mean the most to me. And in this season, not being able to be around a lot of those people has really made me realize how important they are and how valuable the moments spent with those individuals are. I learned a lot about who the people are that truly care about me, and vice versa, because, this was a time when I feel like I received texts from people maybe that I hadn't in a while who were genuinely checking in. And also I know there were some people that I reached out to who I really hadn't talked to in a while, but that I wanted to, kind of reconnect with. And so that's something I learned in this season a lot about, was just, the people who aren't just in your life to be there, but genuinely care. And that was really encouraging. I feel like I was reconnected with some people who I had kind of distanced myself from, or vice versa. Life gets crazy and we get caught up in the busyness. And I think this season has caused us all to slow down and realize, like, wait a minute, I'm missing some people. And so that was something that I really learned, and God continued to speak to me throughout this season. And also I made a lot of new friends, surprisingly, from home, which is kind of cool. But I'm excited to continue to develop those relationships as we move forward. And the last thing I really learned was I realized how much time I was wasting. And by that, I just mean, in the busyness of life and how much I was running around and doing things that just weren't important because I felt like I had to, or because I felt like, well, everybody else is doing it. And I just realized how much I was truly wasting, because now that I've had so much free time, I've been able to really just hone in on what God's called me to do, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the internship that I've accepted, or the part-time job I have, or just developing myself and continuing to grow in my relationship with God. It's very valuable. Whereas before, I don't think I was making that a priority as much as I should have been, even though I was convinced that I was doing that. Now that I reflect, I just feel like I was always so busy and just wasting a lot of time on things that didn't matter. And so that's something that's been really convicting for me in this season. And I think that God's tried to speak to me in the past couple months. And I think as tough as this season has been for a lot of us, again, I think there is at least one positive we can all pull out of it. And if you can't think of one positive, then I really would like to know what you were doing the past couple months, because we have had so much time and so much, adjusting to do, that I feel like we all learned at least one thing. And that's something that can be used as a positive moving forward. And with that being said, in my personal opinion, I don't think there's any excuse for us to not come out of quarantine as a better and more mature person than we were when it started. And that may be harsh, but that's something I truly believe. I know there's some areas of my life that I've really grown in, which I'll talk about in a minute, that I know, a couple months ago, I wasn't where I should have been. And maybe I wasn't the best person in, a specific area of my life. And so now I know that I'm going to go into this next season of life better, and really, just be more present in moments with people, and spend more time prioritizing the important things, which I definitely wasn't doing before. And my point with that is that I believe that lessons learned lead to proven progress. When you adopt the things you've learned in life and throughout this season, or the things that God has spoken to you, you will see progress in your life moving forward. And it may not be on your timetable, because God doesn't work when and how we want him to, but it will be evident in your life at some point moving forward, and you will see it and you'll recognize that. And that's why, again, I believe that lessons learned lead to proven progress. And so this kind of leads me to the second question. What did we grow in? How did we grow? This unique time in our life has not only allowed us to pick up new things or adopt new traits in our lives, but it also has given us plenty of time to improve areas of our lives and or relationships maybe that we weren't doing so well in before. For me, again, I realized I wasn't being a good friend to certain people. I wasn't being the best brother to my two sisters. I wasn't being the best family member because I wasn't prioritizing the correct things. So I've used this season a lot to grow in relationships and mend some relationships that I hadn't been putting effort into, or that I hadn't been, present in before. I've used it to grow in my faith as well, which is something that I've continuously tried to do, but I just had nothing but time. And so spending a lot of time in the Bible, connecting with some people to do some Bible studies, and just trying to live a life like Jesus, which is super important to me. And so that's something I've definitely tried to grow in, and I know that I have in a lot of aspects, and I'm excited to continue to do so. But most importantly, I've grown in allowing more time in my schedule to take care of myself, and by that includes my faith. That's something that's really important to me. That's something that I prioritize, and so I've learned a lot about pushing other things to the side that aren't as important so I can focus on that. My physical well-being, getting back into a workout routine, my eating, sometimes just to relax and maybe spend time with friends or family, or just, spend some time by myself. That's something I wasn't doing before because I was so worried about, go and do what everybody else is doing and keep myself busy, that I was running myself, completely out of gas. It was just exhausted. And so that's something I've definitely grown in, is, making sure that I have enough time to take care of my needs, which obviously is important for everybody to do. Self-care is super important. And that's something that definitely, I needed to improve on. And I think I have, and my work ethic as well. That's something too, that I just really wasn't serious about. And believe it or not, when school was over and I didn't really have much to do, that's when my work ethic kind of improved. And I've really just been determined to make the most out of this summer and the opportunities that God's presented me with. And I'm excited to see how that applies moving forward into next semester of college, and, into the rest of my life, because I think that's something that I've definitely fallen short in before. And I know I'm not the only one, but I'm definitely excited to see how that kind of changes things in my life. And so reflect on that question. How have you grown? What parts of your life have you taken the time to develop in this crazy season? I believe that growth is gain. And I don't mean physical gain as in money or some type of reward, but I mean that now, with the growth in your life and the development in your life, you'll be able to focus on and make the most out of the people, the moments, and the opportunities that you had missed out on before. You're going to gain more value out of the life that God has gifted you with, now that you know what areas you were falling short in, the things that you were prioritizing incorrectly. That you're going to see gain. You're going to see more value in each and every day, because you're going to pay attention to the things that you were missing out on before. And so that leads me to the last question, and something that I've personally just thought a lot about. And that's, what do we do now? As society and our world quite literally reopens, what are our lives going to look like? And I don't mean, physically, how are things going to look? I'm not talking about people wearing masks or tables put 6 feet apart at restaurants and signs on every single business. But I'm referring to how will the way we live our lives look, the way we interact with each other, our family, our friends, our mentors, the people that mean a lot to us. How are the things that we prioritize in our lives going to look differently? Because I think that we will all see a change in that. We're all going to see that maybe we weren't putting the first things first. As I've touched on so many times, how are we going to see a change in the way that we are present in the blessing that is today? I don't think we're ever going to take for granted another day, because we never know when everything that we know could be taken away or put on pause. Not only do I think that we will see change in our lives, but I think it's much needed. And I know in my life, I thought I had it together. I thought I was doing great, and man, was I falling short. Like, there was so much I needed to improve on. And I think we all needed to, whether we realize it or not, in our own different ways. And if you think And if you truly believe that, no, I haven't grown, I haven't changed, like everything's the same, I'm going to keep doing me, I challenge you to reflect again, because I promise there's something to learn. I think that we allowed ourselves to get caught up in the busyness of life, without a doubt. We get so caught up in the hustle and bustle. We get caught up in our jobs, school, and the world around us that we've lost sight of the things that are so important. And just a few examples of those are our family, our friends, our faith, and even sometimes our overall well-being. And my hope for all of us is that we never lose sight of that again. It's a new day. Today is a new day, and it's an opportunity to show the world the new you, the post-quarantine you, and everything that you've learned, everything that you've been through can now be used to not only better your own life, but to better the lives of others, to help other people, to be active in your community, to take on a new role that maybe you haven't before. You're equipped. You've been through this very unique and odd time, and you've learned and you've grown. We all have. And so we can use that to be better people. As we know, and as I talk about every week, we can't go back and change the past and what's happened. And especially in this situation, this was something that was so far out of left field, nobody saw it coming. And we can't go back and change it. But what we can do is utilize what we've learned and how we've grown and make the most of today, the blessing that is today. And as far as tomorrow, Proverbs 27:1 says, "Do not boast about tomorrow." In other words, don't talk about tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't dream about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. We don't know if tomorrow's promised. We don't know if tomorrow everything's going to be shut down again. So then I ask, why not just start with today? It's been awesome talking to you guys today. I look forward to just hearing and seeing how everybody has changed the way they go about life as we move into this next season. I look forward to continuing the podcast. Got some exciting things in the works, so I can't wait to share that with you guys. And with that being said, I'll talk to you next Monday. Everybody have a great week, and don't forget to start with today.